Today we are going to talk about female reproductive cycle. Female reproductive cycle is a cycle, it's a period of events occurring in the female reproductive organs. These are the structural and functional events that occur in female at puberty. Puberty starts from 10 to 13 years of age. This is puberty. So there are cyclic changes in the endometrium of uterus. In the follicles of ovary called ovarian cycle, and there is also change in hormone concentration throughout the cycle. The cycle is usually involving pituitary gland, hypothalamus. Hypothalamus secrete gonadotropin releasing hormone. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. This hormone goes towards pituitary, and pituitary gland secrete two basic hormones which are FSH and LH. FSH is involved in the initial development of follicles in the ovary, means follicular development is done by FSH stimulation, and further development of follicle and ovulation is done by LH surge. This is LH surge. And after that surge, ovulation occurs at that point. So these are the two basic hormones that are secreted from the pituitary glands by control of hypothalamus through gonadotropin releasing hormone, and cyclic changes occur in the ovary and endometrium. So now we will study ovarian cycle. First of all, ovarian cycle, then we will see endometrial or menstrual cycle. First of all, we are going to see ovarian cycle. Ovarian cycle is the cyclic events that occur in the ovary in the development of follicles, containing three phases. First one is follicular phase. Second one is ovulation, and third one is corpus luteum formation. These are the three phases of ovarian cycle. We will see this throughout the ovarian cycle. This is the starting follicular phase. Follicular development is going to start. We can see here, this is the follicular phase. We can include this. This is the primary follicle, the primary oocytes at the start when oogonia converted into the primary oocyte. Follicular cells gathered around the primary oocytes, and this is called primary follicle, primary or primordial follicle. Then primary follicle formed. Further, this is growing follicles. Primary oocytes, then secondary oocytes, then further when the graphene follicles or the growing follicles matured and LH surge occurs and the ovulation occurs. So this is the follicular phase. There are four changes that occur in the follicular phase. First is the proliferation and differentiation of primary oocyte. Second one is the proliferation of the follicular cells around the primary oocytes. Third one is the formation of zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is the glycoproteinaceous material forming a layer around the primary oocytes. This is zona pellucida. And fourth one is the formation of theca folliculi. Theca folliculi, as the primary oocytes is starting developed, theca folliculi is going to form two layers. One is internal called theca interna, and the external capsule like external layer called theca externa. The thecal cells start secreting angiogenesis factor. Angiogenesis factor. In the presence of angiogenesis factor, blood vessels starting to form, means angiogenesis occur, blood vessels formed in the internal theca interna of the theca folliculi, and the theca folliculi becomes the glandular or vascular structure. There is a formation of spaces, and finally the space joins, different spaces joins, and they form a cavity like structure. This is the cavity which is formed in the theca folliculi, layers of the theca folliculi. This is called antrum. Antrum contains the follicular fluid, and you see the primary oocyte is present in the center, but it becomes concentric and it lies along one side, but there are some cells that surround the primary oocytes. These cells are called cumulus ophorus. Cumulus ophorus. These are the cells that surround the primary oocytes when the theca follicular is going to start forming the antrum. Two hormones that are involved basically in the formation of follicular cells or the follicular phase of the ovarian cycle. FSH is the main hormone that has its role in the development of follicles. This is FSH. You can see here, starting when the FSH was starting to be secreted from the pituitary gland, it increases in its concentration, and alongside there is a formation of follicles, primary follicles to secondary follicles, and finally at this level LH hormone is being secreted from the pituitary gland, and LH surge, that is the increase in the concentration of LH hormone, luteinizing hormone, that is the cause of ovulation. This is called the LH surge. So the theca interna is a glandular or vascular structure, and it started producing follicular fluid. Follicular fluid is being formed, and also there is a slight formation of estrogen. You can see here there is a slight formation of estrogen also due to the follicular cells, theca interna of the theca folliculi. And so the antrum contain follicular fluid plus estrogen, and estrogen helped in the formation of, in the development of this is endometrium of the uterus. So endometrium being started to be developed, and this FSH causes increase in the secretion of estrogen. When there is a slight increase in the secretion of estrogen, this has a stimulus to cause the increased secretion of LH, and at the same time LH surge is the reason for ovulation. So in the development of follicles, the main hormone was FSH, but at the later period of follicular phase, main hormone was in the starting FSH, but at the later stages, LH also has its role in the formation or development of follicles. After studying follicular phase, now we see ovulation of the ovarian cycle. When the secondary oocyte started developing and theca folliculi has been formed, the whole phase of the follicular development has been ended. There is the LH surge. This LH surge means luteinizing hormone slightly increased in its concentration. I think there is much increase in its concentration. This much increase is called LH surge. Ovarian follicles under the influence of FSH hormone produces a sudden growth spurt. This growth spurt is called stigma. Stigma formation occur, and slowly this stigma involute this is ovary, wall of ovary, and it started invading the mucosal cells of uterine tube. This is the uterine tube, and finally it forms a vesicular movement into the uterine tube, and the secondary oocyte started moving into the uterine tube. These are the fimbres of the uterine tube. So these fimbres are floating over the ovary, and so the stigma formation occurred, and the vesicular movement of the secondary oocyte occurs, and secondary oocyte finally moves into the uterine tube. This secondary oocyte contains two coverings around it. One is the zona pellucida, containing different type of protein, glycoproteins, ZPA, ZPB, and Z or C, I think, whatever. These are the zona pellucida proteins, and there is one or more layers of follicular cells. These form the corona radiata. These are actually not the fine layer, but it contains pores, and it appears as radiations around the primary oocytes. In the center this is the primary oocytes, and this is the zona pellucida, and the follicular layers forming the spaces between it, and so appear like a corona radiations. So this is called the corona radiata. This is the zona pellucida, and this is the oocytes, secondary oocytes. So this is the ovulation of the secondary oocyte. The main hormones involved are the LH surge. LH surge is induced slightly by FSH, but mainly by the estrogen, which was released from the developing theca folliculi, and also some cells of the ovary, which forms the interstitial glands of ovary. So this estrogen caused the LH surge, and LH surge caused the ovulation, and the secondary oocyte is ovulated. The third phase of the ovarian cycle is the formation of corpus luteum. You can see here, these were the follicular phase, ovulatory phase. This is the corpus luteum formation. Corpus luteum, whenever from the theca folliculi, this is ovulated and moves into the uterine tubes and then into the uterus. The remaining structure is a glandular structure, forms a glandular structure. This is called corpus luteum. This is the developing corpus luteum. Lutea, plural. So these glandular structures secrete progesterone. If fertilization occurs, zygote is formed, and the corpus luteum forms the corpus luteum of pregnancy. Corpus luteum of pregnancy. If the fertilization does not occur, then the corpus luteum degenerate. This is the degenerating corpus luteum. And this degenerating corpus luteum, then it is excreted out during the menstruation. If you see the days below, these are the starting days of the menstrual cycle when menstruation occurs, but actually in the ovary there is starting of proliferation of the follicular cells, ovarian follicles, and at this stage this is the follicular development, and this is the day 13-14 is the day of ovulation. This is follicular phase, and after ovulation luteal phase occur, that is formation of corpus luteum. And if corpus luteum if fertilization does not occur, corpus luteum is degenerated, and then the menstrual phase start. This is the from here menstruation start, so it is excreted out. So this was the ovarian cycle. Now we will see endometrial cycle. If we summarize the ovarian cycle contains 3 phases. First one is follicular phase, during which the ovarian follicle start developing, and ovarian follicle contains the primary oocytes and covering follicular cells. The ovarian follicle then started forming the theca folliculi. Theca folliculi contains the 2 layers. One is the external layer, which forms the capsule-like structure. One is the internal layer, which forms the glandular or vascular structure. So this was the follicular phase. Then the LH surge, increase in the LH hormone occurs, and the hormone LH surge caused the ovulation of the secondary oocyte. This was the ovulatory phase. Then the follicular cells, theca folliculi, form the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is the glandular structure that mainly secrete progesterone. You can see here, during the development and the retention of this corpus luteum, the progesterone is increased in size. If fertilization occurs, the corpus luteum is going to form the corpus luteum of pregnancy. Corpus luteum secrete hormone, mainly progesterone. Progesterone hormone is crucial in the maintaining of pregnancy. If the fertilization does not occur, then the corpus luteum is going to be degraded, and then it is excreted out along with the menstrual excreta, etc.